walking in their pride altogether, denying entirely, either very openly, as the evolutionists do or the atheists do, or simply by denial, simply by not wanting to even talk about it or even think about it. In either case, they are in terrible rebellion against God. Now, therefore, God said in verse 23, or verse 22 of Romans chapter 1, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. In other words, mankind is trying to find his hope and his answers in the animalistic world. He's trying to find his hope in many, many different ways. But now God makes a statement, and it is, we've talked about it before, but it is so serious. We could talk about it again and again and again and not exhaust the seriousness of this. He says, wherefore, verse 24, God also gave them up. He's talking about the whole world. Now, he's not talking about the churches in this instance. He's talking about the whole world, more than 6 billion strong. He gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between them. Now, as I said in another study some months ago, that phrase, gave them up, is a dramatically serious phrase. It doesn't look like it just as we read it there, God gave them up. What's so bad about that? It just means that they're on their own. No, give them up is not that kind. It is a judicial word. It is a legal term that means that has been translated normally in the Bible as delivered up. And let me give you 2 illustrations of this, how serious that particular word is. We find in Luke chapter 23, verse 25. Luke 23, verse 25. Luke 23, verse 25. This will help us understand the seriousness of what we're reading in Romans chapter 1. Where Jesus is standing before Pilate. He is on trial for his life. Pilate is the Roman judge who has the power of life or death. He can say, this man is guilty, kill him, crucify him. He can say, I find no fault in this man, set him free. Now, even though Pilate could not find any fault in Jesus, nevertheless, to please the Jews, he exercised his judicial right to sentence Jesus to be crucified. Look at the language. And he released unto them him that for sedition and murder was cast into prison, that is Barabbas, but whom they had desired. But he delivered, there it is, he gave him up, Jesus, to their will. And we know that what that will is, he must be crucified. It is a legal term. Christ now is not his own. He is under the power of the Roman government. He can't free himself from this. We're just talking about this as a legal situation that existed. Of course, he's still God. He could get out of that in a second. But Christ is going through all of the actions of a legal government, because he is to die, or to demonstrate how he suffered for our sins. And they delivered them up to their will as they led him away. They laid hold upon one Simon, a Cyrenian, coming out of the country. On him they laid the cross, that he might bear it after Jesus. In other words, Christ is carrying his cross on the way to Golgotha. He has been sentenced to death, the ugly death of crucifixion. So when God gives somebody up, it means that you are sentenced to something. You're free in any sense at all. You are locked in. Humanly speaking, anyone who was sentenced by Pilate to be crucified absolutely could never not be crucified. It is absolutely going to happen. You are in complete control of the government who sentenced you, or the judge who sentenced you. Now, God is the judge. God is the judge. Let me give you another reference just to show how God develops this, and that is in John chapter 19, verse 16. It's the same event, and again it's using the same kind of language. John chapter 19, verse 16. We turn to that, and we read, then the crowd is shouting in verse 15, away with him, crucify him, Pilate, saith they unto them. I said that wrong. They cried out, away with him, crucify him. Pilate saith unto them, shall I crucify your king? The priests answered, we have no king but Caesar. Then delivered he him therefore unto them to be crucified. And they took Jesus and led him away. There again you have that delivered. He gave them up. Pilate gave Christ up to be crucified. It is a legal term. Now when we go back to Romans 1, and we read in verse 24, wherefore God also delivered them. It's a legal term. Mankind is under the absolute control of God. God is insisting, what I'm going to deliver you to is going to happen. There's no way to turn away from that. It is going to happen, because it was God's plan that this would happen. Gave them up to uncleanness through the lusts of their own heart, to dishonor their own bodies between them, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worship and serve the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forevermore. To dishonor their own bodies. Now, if God had stopped right there, that would be already a horrible indictment, because mankind was given up to the fact that it was God's plan that their people are going to dishonor their own bodies. Now look back at Leviticus chapter 18. And to dishonor their own bodies, we know, has to do with homosexuality. And in Leviticus chapter 18, God describes this. He says in verse 22 of Leviticus 18, thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is abomination. Here God is giving a normal statement, and theologians correctly, Bible students correctly understand that this is talking about homosexuality. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. Here God is stipulating homosexuality between men. In Leviticus 18, verse 22. And ordinarily, that is the kind of homosexuality that has always been in view at in different places in the world. Normally, if a woman was engaging in some kind of sexual lust, it had to do with being a prostitute or being giving herself to be upon a victim of a man. That's the normal situation, the way it has been. And that's what this is talking about. Here it is, man with man. God gave them up. But it is way more horrible than that, this plan of God. Because go to verse 26. For this cause God gave them up, that is, delivered them. Repeating it again. What does it mean when something is doubled up? What does it mean? Remember in Genesis 41, when the dream was doubled to Pharaoh, that there were the 7 fat ears of corn, and then followed by 7 skinny ears, and there were 7 fat cows, followed by 7 skinny cows. And remember, God, through Joseph, declared, gave words in Joseph's mouth. Well, let's look at that. Let me quote that, because this is all very important in connection with what we're reading here. In Genesis chapter 41, we read in verse 32, for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now, do you see that? It is established by God, and it will shortly come to pass. And so when God put this in Romans chapter 1, that there would come a time when we begin to see what is happening in our day, we know that we're at that time where it is coming to pass with all of its horrors that come from that. And notice when he has said this in Romans chapter 1, that now he gives a aspect of homosexuality that is not discussed in the Bible before. But it is to indicate how fantastically this particular sin will be multiplied, because he goes on in verse 27 or in verse 26, for this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature, and likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the women, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men. In other words, here God is introducing another aspect of homosexuality that has not been discussed before in the Bible. It's one thing, men with men. Men are ugly creatures. I'm one of them. I know all about men. We're ugly creatures. Women, they're delightful. They're beautiful. They're lovely. They're so nice, aren't they? No, they are here given up to commit the same sins between themselves, never recorded before in the Bible. And and they've been delivered to this. In other words, this is God's program, that this is going to happen. And so God has given us to giving them up to make certain that this is certainly going to happen. This is not just conversation. I was thinking about this, when God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah,